Hey, Monica, did you know it's now even easier to listen to Round the Hay Bale podcast?
What? Really? How easy?
That's right. All you have to do is say, Alexa, play Round the Hay Bale podcast.
Playing Round the Hay Bale podcast on Apple Music.
Ooh, we're really fancy now.
Tune in to Round the Hay Bale every Monday at 9 a.m. Central Time.
Grab a cup of joe and let's gather round that hay bale. With your hosts, Anne from Andale Homestead, Cayce from Ormsby Farms, Monica from Bland's Promised Land Ranch, and Sandi from Suburban Homesteader, Wyoming, Arizona. Here they are. Hey, y'all, hey.
Yo, hey, this is Anne from Andale Homestead.
Hello, hello. It's Cayce over at Ormsby Farms.
And good morning. This is Sandi from Suburban Homesteader, Wyoming, Arizona.
And I'm Monica from Bland's Promised Land Ranch. Welcome into this episode where we are talking about being caught up in the moment. When you finally realize, I grew what? And how are we going to preserve this? I mean, the last episode, we talked about all the different ways to preserve. We discussed preserving wars, if you will. We talked about canning and dehydrating and all the different ways you can take and preserve your food, even if it's just taking potatoes and putting them in certain spaces so they can last longer. So in this episode, we're really going to talk about really what did we grow and how are we going to take care of it once we have a plethora of that thing in our house, because we all know how it goes. You're growing something in your garden and all of a sudden it gets out of control. So what is that one thing that's you've gotten caught up in doing, Cayce? And how are you preserving it? How are you keeping it? And what are we, start us off?
Let me tell you, I think we've all said it once or twice on the podcast, but I remember a funny story of Anne saying the first time that she had her garden, she planted every single seed in the packet. Now, I didn't necessarily do that, but I said we love bell peppers here because we're a big Mexican kind of dish, fajita, however you want to call it, kind of family. So I decided it's a smart idea, Cayce, to plant 50 feet of bell peppers. When really, bell peppers start producing at really the beginning of June and will stop when you pull them out of the ground in December. And so I last year had so many bell peppers. I'm like, what in the world have I done to myself? Because you could only freeze so much. And I could be wrong. Sandi, correct me if I'm wrong, but canning bell peppers, meh. I mean, it's not really going to keep the same texture. I've done pepper relish. I've done pepper powder. I have thrown bell peppers at friends for them to take it away from the homestead. But that's one of my veggies that is, it's like, what did I grow? Why did I grow so much? Sandi, what is your veggie that you're like, oh, what did I grow? I grew way too much. Or you probably are organized and have everything planned out.
Well, every year, I love the Swiss chard plant. You know, I love the colors of it. I love eating it. And so a lot of times I'll do Swiss chard around whole sections of gardens because it is beautiful. You know, the leaves come up, you see all those different colors, but then you have so much Swiss chard and you keep cutting it off or breaking it off and it just keeps making more. So, you know, because we love sauteing Swiss chard with scrambled eggs or adding into casseroles and stuff like that. But I actually ended up dehydrating all kinds of it and then put it in my Vitamix and just made it into powder so that I could use it and it would last for a long time. Now, you would think I would know this after I already have all these containers of Swiss chard that I really don't need to grow Swiss chard each year. But I love the plant. And so I have introduced Swiss chard to all my neighbors. I introduced it to my parents who had never eaten it. And because when you have an abundance, you want to give it away too. And we can actually even give our extra vegetables to our soup kitchen and different organizations in town. And as a master gardener, we get credit per pound, and they switch it over into hours of our volunteer hours. So you might check that out, and because maybe that's something they do in your area too. There's always groups that are looking for extra food. And so that's another way for me thinking preserving. What about you, Anne? Oh, she is. Oh, there she goes.
All right, I'm good. As far as, I mean, I love Swiss chard too. It's just awesome. And green peppers. But what are you going to do with 10,000 green peppers or, 40 plants of Swiss chard? What we did actually this year, growing in the garden, either I mixed it up or somebody played a little trick on the nursery, because I grew some by seed, and they are what they are that came out of the seed package as far as jalapeno and cayenne peppers. But I didn't think that was enough. So I went and bought some more and some more. And, that s'more thing gets you a lot. And so some of my jalapeno peppers have turned into cayenne peppers, that they really weren't jalapeno peppers. They were cayenne stars. So now we have like 30 cayenne pepper plants.
Do you like hot sauce?
I don't. I'm not a hot person.
But don't you take cayenne shots?
I do.
So what a blessing, because you can just take those cayenne peppers and dehydrate them, pulverize them down to your powder, and now you've got your own homemade cayenne powder.
There you go,
that
baby.
you already take medicinally for
That's
yourself,
right.
not for anybody. Not saying anybody else should do it, but I mean, look at what God did. And
I know, isn't that crazy? And
worth it.
Yeah, worth it's red pepper flakes or some sort of hot sauce on every bite of food that he eats. So, okay. Yeah, it was a surprise. And I really don't like the taste of hot things, but I'm going to have to do something with them, and I can dehydrate them outside on the back porch instead of pepper spraying my whole house while they're cooking. What do y'all do? Sandi, what do you do when you're dehydrating hot peppers to be able to make your home so that it's not toxic to everyone?
Well, if you have an outdoor porch or a patio, you can always dehydrate outside too. You don't have to do it in your house, because when I dehydrate onions, man, it smells the whole house up. It smells your clothes. You go someplace and the people go, I smell pizza, because they're smelling the onions on you. So sometimes you just have to go outside,
Yeah.
But really for me, when I'm thinking of I grew what now, I am a fruit lover. And so, I do have my vegetable gardens, and I have an overabundance always of stuff. But if you walk through my yard, you will come across gooseberries and raspberries and strawberries and blackberries and currants and apples and pears and peaches. So, especially on certain years, it is just an overabundance. And so things that I do is, I may can them or freeze dry them. Not freeze dry them, dehydrate them, because I'd like a freeze dryer, but I don't have one yet.
It's harvest, right? We all want a freeze dryer.
But then I had to start looking at, okay, now, if I'm just going to freeze these, am I just going to pull them out and cook with them later? What if I make my jams? I make my jellies. I make my fruit roll-ups. I will make apple pies and freeze them, and then I just take them out and bake them.
Okay.
So it's all ready. They're in the pastry, everything. It just depends on what kind of freezer space that you have, what works for your family. But if you're making jams and jellies, sometimes when you're picking that fruit, it's not all ripe at the same time. When I do raspberries or currants or gooseberries, they're not all ripening at the same time. And so I just take them, wash them up, put them in the freezer. And the nice thing about it is in the freezer, it breaks the the cell walls down, and you will actually get better flavor in your jams and jellies when you froze them.
Wow.
And so crumbles, crisp, whatever I can think of to use, I make apple pie filling, and I can it, because then if I want to make any kind of pastry, I can just dump it out in there, because I don't want to waste it. I can preserve the apples and the pears for a certain amount of time, and I like putting them in paper, like Anne likes to do on some vegetables. But it takes some real thinking on, okay, I have 50 pounds of this. What am I going to do? What about you, Cayce?
I was going to say, how you said about the fruit not all coming ripe at the same time is, when I first moved to this homestead, we had 4 fig trees. Really enjoy figs, really enjoy fig jam, fig and pear jam. But of course, they like to joke with me and not come ripe. Like 2 will be ripe one day, 6 will be ripe. You can't really do anything. So what I do is I freeze like Sandi does. And I have noticed that when I pull fruits out of the freezer, peaches, pears, figs, grapes, muscadine grapes, the flavoring is so much more pronounced in those items that I do, whether it's the pie filling or the jams, than if you just buy fresh. Let's say you buy a bulk fresh case of peaches, like I did accidentally. Oops. Good thing is this comes out a couple weeks after, so my mother and Marcus would be like, why did you order so many peaches? But if you freeze it before, I don't know what it is, but it really does have a much sweeter taste if you freeze it first. And so I do that now. Even when I buy fruit, I will dice it up or cut it up and wash and put it in the freezer for like a week. It gives me time to be like, what did you just do? But it also gives it that more flavor so that you have sweeter jams or pie fillings or whatever going forward. So I wanted to jump in and say that it is so true. And I didn't know that there was a scientific explanation behind it.
I have a question. So when you do freeze your fruits, either Sandi or Cayce, do you go ahead and prepare them as you want to use for cooking? Or is this something that you peel and slice, or do you throw the whole fruit in the freezer?
Well, I just throw it right in. You know, I don't, like the currants and gooseberries, I leave the stems on them at that point. I don't even pull the stems out yet.
Okay.
Because a lot of times when I am making the jelly from gooseberries or currants, I'm using my steam juicer. And so I can just dump those frozen in there. The little canister that's inside there are going to keep all of those stems, and it doesn't make any difference. I wouldn't have leaves in there, but I can easily just extract the juice out of there, and then I can make my jellies or save it as a juice.
So like with pears or peaches, they have pits and seeds. Cayce, what do you do with your peaches?
I cut them off, like keeping the skin on. I cut them off, put them in a freezer bag, set it and forget it. Now pears, I will say the pears I do peel. I do peel the pears before I cut it up, only because I use the peels and the core to make pear cider vinegar. So that's really the only reason that I do that, because most of the time the skin is going to give the most nutrients. So I keep it on there. I know that's very taboo. Some people, like with the potatoes, like people are like, you don't peel your potatoes before you can it. No, ma'am. No, sir. I put it right in there. I'm not going to sit peeling potatoes all day. I don't peel my peaches either. I mean, you can eat the peel of it. You can eat the apple peel. So why not? You just don't want to you don't want to put an apple core in your apple pie. It probably wouldn't be as good. But the least amount of work that I have to do, Miss Ann, that's what I do. And I put it in the freezer and I forget about it until it's September, and then I'm in a panic to make holiday spreads and all that kind of stuff.
The least amount of work. I'm in there with you, babe. That's awesome. That's great.
Monica, what about you?
Well, I mean, you guys are making my brain go here because I'm thinking, because, a while back I had to leave to go out of town unexpectedly in early June. And when I did, I had a bunch of the plums from our plum tree. Now in Texas, I think they're called sand plums, but they're like a native plum. But we bought these trees and we put them out front. And all of a sudden it was like all of our plums were ripening, but they were kind of like a day or so apart. So we had like waves of like a day, there was a bunch here and then there was more. And so I needed to get them picked before I left for Maryland. And so I grabbed a bunch of them and I'm like, I literally can't do anything with them. Like if I don't put them somewhere, if I can't can them right now, they're going to go bad. And so I just stuck a whole entire bag in the freezer. Like they're still whole in the freezer. And so I look at them now. Thankfully I did, because the storms came rolling in the day after I left Maryland, and it rained for like an entire week, and every single one of the rest of the plums were destroyed. They were blown off the trees, trampled, animals got them, everything. So whatever I had gotten is gone. So I have a gallon bag filled with plums in my freezer. And every time I open that freezer up, I'm looking at this bag going, what am I going to do with you? Like, I got you here.
Didn't me and you talk about that, Monica? Because, I do the same thing with my plums. They come ripe pretty much all at the same time.
Yeah.
And I have little smaller plums. When I did the picture thing, it said it was a Chinese plum. I don't know if I ever really believe what Google says they are, but they're a plum. They're sweet. I freeze it whole, and then I defrost it in a heavy bottom pan. And once I get that juice, I start pouring it through my juicer, because the juicer won't cut up the seed, which you're not supposed to can with the seed because it's toxic.
I don't have a juicer. So what do I do? Just let it start to thaw out and kind of cook up and then pull out the seeds?
Well, you could always go to linktree.com/roundthehaybale, and there's Amazon storefronts from, I think, all of us, and they're relatively cheap. But Sandi has actually talked me into, I'm looking really heavily at that water juicer, the steam juice thing. Oh my goodness. You put it at the top and then it drips down, and then you have the juice, and it's kind of like a set it and forget it while it's doing it. And that would be a good thing for the plums, because you're going to waste a lot of stuff in the frozen one, because the skin's not really going to juice, the seed is not going to juice in the plums, but you'll get a good amount. A gallon bag will probably do you a batch of jelly, Monica.
Okay. Yeah, and then Monica, if you put it in the steam juicer, right, it's going to break down the walls. The outside of the plum is going to juice all that down, and it becomes kind of a mush up on that top part. But you can literally take that out, pick out the seeds, put that that actual plum that is left in your blender, and blend it all up and make a plum butter.
Okay, so that's what I was thinking, because I don't want to waste it. Like, first of all, nothing goes to waste on the farm. So I can give all of the pulp and the things. A lot of times the seeds will just go into wherever, but the rest of the flesh, everything I can't use, if I can't use it for us, I give it to the animals. But I would rather use that flesh. So I could just pull the seeds out after that point and make a plum butter. Because like I did that with my peaches, right? So I had skinned all the peaches tirelessly, these little tiny peaches, because they're not real size peaches. They're like little small Saturn peaches. So they're small. And I took all the peaches, I put the flesh in the pot, and I made myself plum jam out of the flesh and all that. And then I took all the rind, like all the outside skin, and then I made peach. It was supposed to be peach jelly, but it ended up being more like a drizzle because it didn't set. But I used all of it. And that was the point, that I wanted to be able to use as much as possible. And then whatever was kind of left over, I threw out to the animals. But I didn't want to waste. I don't want to waste the flesh. So if I can use the flesh from the from the plums, and make some butter or something out of it, that'd be great too. So that's good. Okay, good. Now I have some ideas of what I'm going to do. See, I don't have a problem with an abundance of fruit usually. What I get caught growing is usually peppers. In the past, I have grown an enormous amount of peppers, and usually Eric is like, hi, there's like 8 rows of peppers. And when I say like a row, usually it's like 6 plants per row. So I grow a lot of peppers, and he's like, what are we doing all these peppers? And so Cayce, it's touched on the peppers, but we like making pepper relish. I don't even make cucumber relish anymore because it gets soggy over time. Like if I can a bunch of it, I feel like it gets a little soggier. And so my kids love the crisp of a pepper relish versus the cucumber relish. So we'll make I make sweet pepper relish, and my kids literally don't even know the difference now. I don't even make cucumber relish anymore. I only make sweet relish with my peppers because it adds the crisp. I don't have any heat to it, obviously, because I'm using the regular peppers. But yeah, my kids prefer that. They ask for, or a zucchini. I make zucchini relish too, and it's a little crispier than
I love
cucumber
zucchini
relish. But
relish.
cucumbers are reserved only.
Yeah, I do a sweet one.
Yeah, so we either do zucchini or peppers. But I mean, we've had to find other ways. But typically, that's where I get into trouble. Or green beans. I tend to overplant green beans. They're cute. You look at the little beans in the ground, and the kids are out there helping me, and it's a really fun activity. And then I've got like 20 rows, and Eric's like, "Hi, we have a lot of green beans out here. What are we going to do with them?" And so I try to can them, or I freeze them, and then go from there. But see, I don't have a lot of freezer space, so I have to find other ways because my freezer's filled with meat. So, Sandi, you have something to add?
Well, I just wondered if you'd ever taken your beans when you take them off the plants and have the kids string them and just hang them up to dry.
I have not, but I saw, I believe, Lady Boots over on Boots and Bounty Homestead. I saw her do that, or somebody do that like last season, and I was like, "Oh my word, I'm going to do that." But I didn't grow green beans this year, so I can't do that. But next year, we're trying it.
Yeah, because it used to be before there was dehydrators. Farmers, anybody that grew vegetables, like they would slice their squashes and string them on strings. They'd hang ears of corn, anything that could let the air dry around them. Yeah. And so it's just one more thing that you could do, even if you're just trying it one summer for fun to see how you like it.
Yeah. I think that's what I would do is I would probably do my beans that way. I don't think I would actually do any food that I could eat. I would probably dehydrate the beans just so that I could take those seeds and then replant those the following year, because we have a large amount of flies around the farm. And so I would be so worried that they would flies would get on them, poop on them and stuff. So, yeah. Anyway, Cayce.
On that note, no, stringing the green beans is such a good idea. Now, let me tell you, I'm kind of bougie, and I was watching this video recently. I know, shocker, Cayce bougie? No way. And this homestead video, because I'm trying it this year, we have a lot of little pine seedlings that just start growing everywhere. So I am going to pull out the little seedlings and plant it by the little chicken area, because I saw a video that with strong dehydrated fruits and veggies, they did it around the Christmas trees for the chickens to peck at and eat over the holiday season. I don't know if that was something that I'm a psycho, that's probably not even good for the chickens, but it just, because my chickens do like green beans when they just like pecking at it. So is that something, Sandi, that would be good for the chickens? Or is it something that you should probably leave on a video on YouTube? Is this a way of saving some of what you grew for them?
Well, your chickens will just love any kind of vegetable or fruit that you're going to give them, right? And there's parts of pine trees and evergreen trees that are edible. I don't think it will affect negatively with the chickens at all, the combination of them. I think I'd try it. And because
they had popcorn too. The cutest thing was it was popcorn strong. I think I saw dried dehydrated cranberries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What was the yellow? Oh my goodness. Maybe it was squash chunks. Or dehydrated chunks of, yeah, it was really, really cute. And I'm like, my girls are my heart, my little 10 girls. And they're the only ones really that are going to be here over the winter because everybody else is for meat. And I was like, I want to decorate their area with a Christmas tree this year and put a little snack on there that they can kind of munch while they're staying inside. So I don't know.
I think it's a fun idea. You could literally string that inside their coop too, and you could take some videos and they'd be jumping up, getting all that, the popcorn and the cranberries and everything.
That's so cute.
That's kind of another one of our vlog simbers. Oh gosh, what did you call it, Monica? I've already lost the
Vlogmas.
Vlogmas. There we go. Vlogmas.
That sounds like a Vlogmas idea.
I'm trying to tell you. But that's another thing is, we talked about it with Carmen on the episodes, is that she gets a lot of the random seeds for trees that sprout up. And what do you do with because you did grow that. I mean, it's your soil that grew it. I like to sell them. I like to pull out the seedlings and sell them to make a little bit of ching for the winter months. So that's another way of preserving of the craziness of what I grew, because we have so many pine seedlings. It gives me a headache even thinking about it.
Well, I think one of the things that we haven't touched on yet too is we get caught up in the moment and we grow animals sometimes that we probably shouldn't have gotten caught up in growing. I think, with only a few minutes left here, I think that's something we should touch on, because I think we've discussed homesteading math in the past and how a lot of times you get caught up in that. And they have the famous thing where it's like chicken math, chickens are like the gateway animal to homesteading. And there's so much truth in that. But I think sometimes we get caught up in growing animals and raising animals that we have no business having. And then we're like, what do we do? And so I think that, even though this is obviously about preserving it and keeping things long term, I think the idea that we get caught up sometimes, not just with our garden, but with our life and with our homestead life. And you can grab animals and you can grab one of the things that you don't need on your homestead. So I think that's one of those things that we need to kind of be aware of when we're doing a homestead, when we're starting this journey, or when we're living this life. Be mindful of what you're growing, and it's fun. Have fun with it. But I think sometimes we get ourselves into some trouble when we grab too many things and when we plant too many things, because we get ourselves in these great ideas, and we have amazing ideas when you get out here and you're, oh man, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I think we need to sometimes take a step back and remember that it's okay to do things slowly and very carefully, because when you take your time and you jump into these big things, they're going to work out a lot better for you in the end. So I know I have been one. My husband and I, we got on this homestead, and first thing we did, Eric was like, I want a horse. I need a horse. I'm living in Texas. I'm going to get me a horse. And we got a horse and we got 2 cows, and we were like living this beautiful dream. And after about a month and a half, we realized that this horse knew more about life than we did. And he was like, oh my goodness, I am so glad I got these people taking care of me, because they know nothing about me. And I'm going to tell you what, horse, they can take advantage of you. I mean, horses know. And this was like a 12-year-old horse, which in like people years, he was like advanced. He was like, oh, these people were just in for it. And he would just come up on us. He was the sweetest boy, but he was nosy. He didn't like his cow friends. He needed more horse friends, but we didn't have none. And he just thought he was just going to own us. And so we may or may not have gotten thrown off the horse a few times for thinking we were cowboys when we weren't. And we got in a little too deep. So we be trying to have some animals and growing some animals on our farm that we didn't need to grow. And I think there's a lot to be said for doing that, right? Sandy's got something she wants to add.
Well, it's animals, it's vegetables, it's trees, anything that you're doing on your homestead, because you have to look in the long term.
Yeah.
Because even with your vegetable garden, it's the harvest time. Maybe you don't have an extra freezer. Maybe you don't have a dehydrator. You don't know how to can. It's things that during that or before you need to prepare for and learn those skills, because it will kick you in the butt if you don't. And then you've wasted your time, your money, your energy, and maybe you didn't use those vegetables at all, and they've gone to waste. And that's not the idea of homesteading. And then you feel guilty.
Yeah.
we want you to be successful in everything that you do. And so that's why we're discussing stuff.
Absolutely. I think that's important too. You know, maybe sometimes we get over our head with those animals. We can give those extra vegetables to our animals. I know that's what we do at our farm. Thankfully, I have an abundance of chickens and ducks and turkeys that will eat my extra vegetables, and pigs. But yeah, I think that overall, you know, we're here to give you some of our advice and some of our wisdom that we've gleaned over the years of homesteading and really just growing plants and gardens and things like that. You know, we've had such great discussion here. And if you like what you hear, definitely click all the things and come back and see us each Monday. We drop a new podcast every Monday, and we are here on Fridays. Go over to our YouTube channel, Round the Hay Bale on YouTube, and we are there doing our live on Fridays. It's our Hey Y'all Hey morning show where we are discussing all the topics that we just talked about here on Friday. And so if you're interested and you want to have more questions, check us out, come ask us questions, chat with us about all these things, because we really are excited about sharing the things that we've experienced and our knowledge with you. And we just really like talking to each other, really. This is just a big hangout sesh. So come hang out with us and hang out with us on Fridays as well. So until next time, don't forget to check us out on all the different podcast platforms, and we will see you on Friday. And until then, bye y'all, bye.
Are you enjoying our hay bale topics? To learn more, click on the LinkTree link to get all of our product recommendations along with discount codes and more.